Hello everybody, in this video I will talk about different types of cluster analysis methods and how to cluster objects having binary variables. Clustering is the method of grouping objects on the basis of their similarity. Objects are called similar if the distance between those objects are very little. Different distance matrices can be used to check how close objects are with each other. Different clustering methods have been proposed. The first one is partitioning method. In case of the partitioning method, initially we have to define how many clusters are required. The number of clusters k we have to specify. Then we have to specify or we have to choose cluster centers from the given dataset randomly. Suppose there are k clusters required, then there will be k cluster centers which selected randomly. Then from that, those selected k clusters, distance between remaining points will be calculated, and the objects which are close to k will be grouped in that cluster. So on the basis of that, k number of different clusters will be created. Then after the creation of first cluster centers will be recalculated, and the distance from that new created cluster centers and remaining points will be recalculated, and then again new cluster will be formed, and then again new cluster center from that newly formed clusters will be calculated. This process will go on repeatedly. Here in this example, distance matrix is used to check the distance between the objects. I have created a simple example. There are six records of 6 different people's weight and height are given, and from this first person Sital, the distance to other objects are calculated here. These are the distances from Sital to other objects. So from this distance calculation, we can say Sital is close to Nishchal, as the distance between Sital and Nishchal is the least. There are other distances. Sital to Bisho is 5, then Sital to Pritam 8, and so on. But distance between Sital and Nishchal is 0. And when we plot these points, weight and height in the diagram, two-dimensional chart, we see the points close to each other. Here we can see 2 points close to each other. Here these 2 points are to some extent close, and these are the points close to each other. So in this way, distance matrices are used to calculate the distance between the objects. So this is the basic idea behind partitioning method. Another method is hierarchical method. Hierarchical methods are defined as the method where either the merging of object is done or splitting of the objects are done. There are two different hierarchical methods: agglomerative, that is also known as bottom-up approach, and divisive, that is a top-down approach. In case of the agglomerative method, it successfully merges similar objects or groups that are close to each other until the termination condition is satisfied. And in case of divisive method, initially there is only one cluster, and that cluster will be divided or splitted into smaller clusters until the termination condition is satisfied. Another approach is hierarchical, that is density based method. These partitioning method, hierarchical clustering methods basically use distance measured to form clusters, and these methods will form only spherical shaped clusters. These methods cannot form irregularly shaped clusters. So in order to define or create irregular shaped or different shaped clusters, density based clustering algorithms have been proposed. The basic idea is to continually grow cluster as long as number of objects in the neighborhood crosses some pre-specified threshold. Density based spatial clustering of application with noise, known as DV-scan, is density based method for clustering. So these are the 3 different clustering methods. There are other methods also, but I have talked about only 3 different methods here. Now let's talk about the example where objects will have the binary variables. In case of the binary variables, we cannot use distance measures. Binary variables have 2 states, 0 or 1, either yes or no or true or false. So in that situation where the objects have binary variables, we cannot use distance measures. We already know that to use the distance measures we need numerical values, but in case of the binary variables, there is either true or false, exist or not exist. So how can we find similarity or dissimilarity between the objects when they are having binary variables? So in order to calculate the dissimilarity or similarity between objects having binary variables, we will be using dissimilarity matrix. Here I have created a simple example. Okay, here you can see I have created the record with 3 persons, Mini, Simi, Rimi, and the 4 attributes are reading, movies, roaming, sports. Mini doesn't like to reading, so the value of reading is no. Mini likes movies, so it is yes. She also likes roaming, she also likes sports. So you can see here yes for movies, roaming and sports in case of Mini. Similarly, in case of the Simi also doesn't like reading, but she likes movies but doesn't like roaming. She likes sports. About Remy, she likes reading, she doesn't like movie, but she likes roaming and sports. So in this way, the variables are of binary type. The values are either yes or no, or true or false. So in that situation, we cannot be using distance matrices. So we have to use the dissimilarity matrix, and in order to calculate the value of this dissimilarity, we have to calculate the values of these variables Q, R, S, T. Q means the number of attributes having true value for both objects. R means number of attributes having true for first object and false for second object. S means number of attributes having value false for the first object and true for the second object. And T is the number of attributes having false for both objects. So now let's calculate the value of P, Q, R, S, T for Mini and Simi first. The value of Q is 2 because Mini has 1 yes, Simi also has yes in movie. Both are agreeing. Both are having 1 for movies. Similarly, both are having yes for sports. So 1 plus 1, that is 2. That 2 became, how this 2 came is because Mini and Simi are having yes for 2 attributes, so it is 2. Similarly, 0 for Mini, there is yes here and there is also yes. But in case of roaming, Mini is having yes and Simi is having no. So the value of R will be 1 here. Similarly, value of yes, in this case, Mini should have the value of no and Simi should have the value of yes. And for reading, both are having no. Movies, roaming and sports do not have no and yes. This movie yes, Mini has yes for roaming, Simi has no for roaming, and Mini has yes for sports, Simi has yes for sports. So the value of yes will be here 0. Similarity means for both objects attributes should have 0. So here only for reading, Mini and Simi is having 0, so it is 1. So in this way we calculate the value for Q, R, S, T for Mini. Similarly for Mini and Rimi, these two. So we have to count for how many attributes both agree. Here they are agreeing in sports only, so the value is 1. Then we have the value, okay, no, for the roaming also they are agreeing, more roaming and sports they are agreeing, so the value of Q is 2. Similarly for value of R, Mini has to be true and Rimi has to be false, and that condition is only with movies. Mini likes movie but Rimi doesn't like movie, so this is 1. Similarly, yes, in that case Mini has to be no, Rimi has to be yes, and in case of the reading only, they are having this condition satisfied. Mini doesn't like reading but Rimi likes reading, so this yes is 1. T means both agree with negative values, and this situation is true for, not reading 0. They are not having no for both, so this is 0. Similarly, Simi and Rimi both should be agreeing, and only for sports they are agreeing. And for the R, the one has to, Simi has to be yes and Rimi has to be no, and this is the only one attribute, movie. They are agreeing, the yes for Simi in movie, no for movies for Rimi, so the value of R is 1. Similarly, yes means Rimi has to be no, Simi has to be no, and Rimi has to be yes, so that is 1, 2. So only for reading and movies this condition satisfied, so the value of yes is 2. Now for T, both has to be no, and that is not available here, so it is 0. Now let's insert this value for Mini and Simi is equal to Q is 2 plus 1 divided by 2 plus 1 plus 0. We don't need the value of T here. This is the dissimilarity between Mini and Simi. Similarly, Mini and Rimi is equal to 2 plus 1 divided by 2 plus 1 plus 1. So that is 0.75. Similarly, Simi and Rimi equal to 1 plus 1 Q plus R divided by 1 plus 1 plus 2. That is okay. So in this way we get the dissimilarity between given objects. Here the maximum dissimilarity is between Mini and Simi, because this is the highest value. So what we can say is Mini and Simi are very dissimilar, but Simi and Rimi, which are the least dissimilarity value, so they are very similar. Simi and Rimi are similar to each other. So in this way, using the dissimilarity matrix, we can see whether two objects having binary variables are similar or dissimilar. So